there was that infamous fight between Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Senator Chuck Schumer, and President Donald Trump, with good old Vice President Mike Pence looking like a scared 4-year-old child between that argument. It's quite clear that during that argument it had to deal with Trump's infamous wall that he wants to build south of the border, and he said, I think on more than one occasion, to both Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, with the press in the room, that he would be more than happy to do a government shutdown. And he was saying that he would lead the charge to do a government shutdown, and that he wanted money for his wall, even though we all remember in 2016 where President Trump was stating out loud to everybody, from his Republican opponents to the press to even when he was debating against Hillary Clinton, that Mexico would pay for the wall. Now, as we all know, Mexico is not going to pay for the wall. And with the Democrats taking over the House and Congress, he's not going to get the resources or the votes that he needs to get the resources to build the wall. And the military, our United States military has said that it'd be pointless to even start construction for a wall because it's going to cost a ridiculous amount of money to build and maintain. And right now, recently, Trump, the White House, sent out a statement that it's going to back down on U.S. government shutdown threat. Now, this isn't the first time Donald Trump has said that he'd shut down the government or threatened to do a government shutdown. I said it early on in the live stream that I did last week that most likely he would back away from it because he doesn't have the support in the United States Congress, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Republicans in the Senate that wouldn't support him either. Now, Trump was stating that the Democrats would take the full blame for a government shutdown.
It went off. I don't know why.
Oh.
Shit. Should I just...
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
We're back.
Are we...
Go, just start going.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for that. We had a little...
This is why we have technical alpha.
This is why we have technical alpha. So anyways, I want to get down to it. So basically, at the end of the day, the president's administration has said that they don't want to do a government shutdown, and they're backing away from it. So this is great. Initially, though, they still want $5 billion for the resources needed to protect the border, but I think we've all seen numerous times that a wall doesn't work. Ask the people who were sieged in Constantinople, and ask how Genghis Khan got past the Great Wall. Walls don't work, and it's a waste of resources and time. And I'm pretty sure that as we go into 2019 and then enter into the 2020 presidential election cycle, Trump will not get the resources or the votes needed to secure a wall. It's a childish statement. It really says a lot about his administration. But this is, I guess, a minor victory for, I guess, the Democrats right now in the Senate and in the House. And as for the Republicans, I don't know where they stand on the wall, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them are seeing Trump slowly having his little meltdown after the numerous stories surrounding his administration and scandals, people leaving his administration, Cohen going to jail. This is one more thing added on to Trump's failures, and pretty much I'm glad that there won't be a government shutdown, because when a government shutdown does happen, it's going to systematically affect our economy and government workers, because people will not have jobs, and it's going to be a trickle effect. So the Trump administration has backed away from it, and I'm pretty sure Trump's big speech about building a wall will not happen. I don't think he'll ever get the support needed to build a wall. Daniel, what do you want to add to about Trump's little loss here?
So I'm trying to think of what the right way to say this is. And I think that the right way to say this is, if you want to spend $4 billion or more, because it's also going to take maintenance, it's going to take people patrolling and repairing it, it shouldn't be vulnerable to a trebuchet. And that's really what it comes down to. That we shouldn't be investing money in something that was obsolete with gunpowder. You can build a chain link fence, but in all reality, you're just spending a lot of money to make a symbol that doesn't actually do anything, that only, even if you said did something, only takes, covers about 30% of crossings. And at the same time, they have been closing the border to actual asylum seekers, so you're taking people that would otherwise be coming in legally and making it illegal. And you can go back to before we had a wall, before the border was militarized in the way it was. What would happen is that for part of the year, Mexican migrants would enter the U.S., they would work in the agriculture fields, which no Americans actually want to work with or work in, no matter how much they pay them. So food is rotting presently in American fields because there's no one to pick it and to do this very remedial, very labor-intensive work that pays, again, such a small amount. And again, we've seen that people aren't even taking that job for $15 an hour. So they would used to do that, and then when that season ended, they would go back to Mexico. The second that they put the border up in the way they did, the checkpoint, it became a risk every time you crossed the border. So many people, millions, that would leave the U.S. when picking season was done, stayed because they weren't sure if they were going to get back. So that's one time we just shot ourselves in the foot. We're worried about migrants coming in and staying, and we make a choice and a decision that causes migrants to come in and stay. And then on top of that, you're spending additional money, additional taxpayer dollars to maintain that system. And so then the other thing that people like to bring up is, we got to keep these narcos, these drug runners in. If anyone knows a little bit about, they've already paid off the border. They're not really worried about crossing. I know that they have, they will do things where they'll have people doing backpacks, but that's really like bonus money for them. That's not like backbone. We need these border crossing people to cross the desert carrying 20 pounds of marijuana on our back. No, that's more like we're doing trafficking and we can make a little money off that while we do that. I mean, one person carrying a backpack of pressed cannabis is not going to compete with the 18-wheeler that just pulled 1,000 pounds through a checkpoint talking to a border agent who's already been paid off.
Yeah, and there's something else I want to add on to this too. The very fact that, the president of the United States, President Trump, was willing to state in front of the entire international community, as well as arguing with two senior elected officials. Now, look, I got my issues with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They're both part of the establishment. They both take money from large corporations and Wall Street. But when you have a sitting president have a tantrum and actually threaten to do a government shutdown, it really shows a lot about his administration. And the one thing that he was fighting for and demanding from those two was to build a wall. Now, or at least to have the resources from Congress to basically approve for his administration to build a wall south of the border. And it's pointless. It was dumb. And they were calling him out, saying it's ineffective. It won't work. And there's no way a wall is going to stop everything. It's a waste of resources, time, and money. And once again, Trump, even though he was saying to do a government shutdown, he backed away from it. Just like I said earlier on last week, that he would probably most likely back away from doing a threat of doing a government shutdown. Will he make up another scene like this, similar, maybe next year? He probably will, because that's who he is. That's his administration. That's what he's about. And that's why more than ever in 2020, we all have to get actively involved and have a strong progressive candidate to really challenge Trump and get his administration out of here, because we're going to start seeing more of his crybaby tantrums. And think about what that looks like internationally towards our allies. Here, the leader of the free world is crying to members of the House and Senate to get what he wants, and if he doesn't, he's just going to shut everything down. It's like a 5-year-old.
Now, I want to add this very quickly. If we have a picture of the camera on me for a second. Okay, watch this. Okay, pretend that I'm looking at you and you are crossing the border illegally. I see you. Now let's do the same thing with a wall. I don't see you. This is nothing more than a moral concept in terms of his voters don't like immigrants because they've been conditioned to not like immigrants, and that's also mixed in with issues that certain border communities have had. The issue isn't immigrants. If you find yourself blaming someone with less power than you, you're probably being manipulated by someone with more. The wall is irrelevant. The wall doesn't solve the problem. It just costs the U.S. money. It's like they said after 9/11, they hate us for our freedoms, so we got rid of our freedoms because they hate us. In this, we're getting rid of our money and the idea of what it actually is causing. So why are so many people crossing the border? Well, a big reason that this happened in the 90s is when NAFTA got passed with Bill Clinton. And all of a sudden, 1 million Mexican corn farmers didn't have much to do because America was undercutting their corn. So they went north, not just because they're organically like, I guess I'll go to America, but because the meatpacking industry and the agricultural industry would actively get them. They would actually give them buses where they would drive them from Mexico to these farms, to these meat packing places. So this is a situation that is caused by the U.S. The U.S. is a really powerful country. Mexico doesn't really have a lot to do when the U.S. says something. The U.S. says A and Mexico says B. A is what occurs. So that's step one, is that this is a lot of this is the economic policy we have pushed to help corporations backfiring. Part two, very quickly on that note with part two, is we've made it worse. The war on drugs, we're the ones doing that. We're also the place that has all the demand. Where do you think that weed is smoked? Where do you think that cocaine is snorted? It's in the U.S. Supply and demand. If you understand capitalism, you understand the obvious nature of the cartels.
Yeah.
And so I just want to leave it at, this is dumb. This is a dumb decision. This is doing nothing but making certain people feel good by spending $1 million.